Hare Krishna. So, did we read the Mangalacharan prayers? Mangalacharan is done? The Mangalacharan? Invocation and all. I can do that now. Yeah. Okay. So, we'll do the Mangalacharan prayers, which are called the invocation prayers, and then we can continue with the discussion. If they can. Okay. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namne Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanto Radha Kanto Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you all for coming. Please excuse me, I got stuck at work. Couldn't leave sooner. So, how did you hear about us? Okay. And so you have any prior experience to the Krishna consciousness movement, or? Okay. Okay. So, I thought that we can continue with the discussion we had on Saturday in terms of theistic conduct, what it means to be theistic or atheistic for that matter. How do you define these terms? And what are the symptoms of a person who is theistic? What are his characteristics? What is his thoughts? What are his actions? What is his motivations? Who are his ideals? Who does he follow? Who does he listen to? What is his rituals, customs, and all those things? And why are they important? Are they mere ritualistic, or is there any significance behind any of these customs? So we started the discussion on Saturday with which was a continuation of the Brahma Samhita, wherein it was recommended that scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. These are the three things that were highlighted in the instructions by the Supreme Lord for anyone who wishes to advance in the spiritual life. So, scriptures, we can take each thing in detail and see how it pans out and help us come to a conclusion on defining these important terms. What are scriptures and what are not scriptures, right? Scriptures are something which are given by Krishna himself, and those, it's broadly divided into Shruti, which is direct emanation from Krishna, and Smriti, which is talking about Krishna by his devotees, like the Puranas and Itihasas. So it's broadly divided into those. And persons who base their judgment and character and decisions, everything on these texts, are known as theists. And those who ignore these texts are known as atheists, by definition. And so this forms the law book or the basis of any action, custom, ritual, practice, or any of those things. So different cultures have different basis or law books. In the Sanatan Dharma, the Vedas and the Puranas, they form the basis. In different cultures elsewhere, the Bible and the Quran, they form the basis. All of these are given by God or revealed through his devotee. So they will form the most basic preliminary definition, right? Anyone who is not even following or is aware of these texts would be considered a two-legged animal because of lack of culture, lack of refinement, lack of a polish, lack of purpose in life. So having said that, how do we make progress on this path? First of all, we have to find out what our objective would be, what our goal would be, having obtained this human form of life. What is Bhagavad Gita even talking about? Is it applicable to us or not? And if it is, then how should we apply it? And for that, there is the actionable items that we have to extract from these instructions and apply it in our day-to-day lives, with the objective of developing certain characteristics which will be suitable for us to, or which will qualify us to receive the instructions or for the knowledge to be revealed, right? How do we understand anything in this world? Up to now, in our modern day culture, we read the books and we try to grasp or understand or comprehend any subject by our own efforts, isn't it? We try to read the books, we try to do some experiments, or we try to set up some hypothesis and do something, and it's just our own endeavor, right? We figure out something based on our own strengths. There is no concept of revelation in most of our life, in whatever insights we derive. However, spirituality is purely based on revelation. But does that imply that you have no role to play? If everything is based on revelation and you cannot force somebody to reveal to you, so what is our role in the equation? What do we bring, right? If Krishna is going to reveal everything to us, is there something that we can attract his attention and mercy with, right? We cannot force him, but we can definitely please him and become more suitable or a better candidate than what we are, so that Krishna is more inclined to reveal the knowledge to us, right? So that's the objective for this. Is, of course, we are already assuming that we are familiar with the purpose of life and why that should be pursued. So we won't take that discussion in this session, but that we can save for some other time. But having come to an understanding about what our goal would be, and then we have to figure out the progressive stages of what the scriptures reveal about this path of self-realization. And our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, he calls this the science of self-realization. And he mentions there are two self, the word self refers to two entities, one with a small s and one with a capital S. The small self is us, and the self with the capital S is with Krishna. It refers to Krishna. So, spirituality entails understanding ourselves and understanding Krishna and understanding our relationship with Krishna and acting according to that relationship. So there is this notion of conduct and behavior, it's inbuilt into the relation, right? Now, so far everyone is following. Is any questions or comments, concerns? So we have examples or case studies, so to say, about devotees who have conducted themselves and shown how to respond to the world around us and how to respond to the situation, the people, the other forms of life, the environment and everything in relation to or in awareness of the relation of everything to Krishna. Right? How one should behave once we know in principle that everything is coming from God, everything emanates from God, He is the source of everything, right? I don't think there is any scripture which denies that, right? Every scripture will say that there is a God, everything comes from Him, right? So there is no difference of opinion as far as these basic axioms are concerned, right? The only thing that we need to pay attention to is what are the scriptures recommending in terms of practices so that we advance on this path, right? Being aware of certain axioms is different than realizing the axioms or realizing the facts. What is that one has to do to graduate from being aware of something to realizing something? Right? That's the crux of the situation that we have to focus on. Being aware, everyone knows. How many people are aware of Bhagavad Gita? Everyone, most of the people. Right? But how many people realize and practice the principles of Bhagavad Gita? Right? Krishna says himself in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschinmam vetti tattvata. That of many people who are trying to progress, hardly some make any progress. And even of those who make any progress, there's hardly one who knows me in truth. Right? So, it is both. We have to endeavor and we have to qualify to become a recipient of the revealed knowledge. And the devotees of Krishna, when they are pleased by our effort, will recommend that, oh God, here is a person who I see is making some endeavor, why don't you show him some mercy? And Krishna will listen to his devotees. And he says, yeah, if you recommend, if you trust him, maybe I can. And you're satisfied with his service, then I would definitely reveal from within his heart this divine knowledge. And that's why, and this is not something, it's restricted to the path of spirituality or pure spirituality. We have so many people who have great contributions to this world in terms of many scientific discoveries and advancements, who have confessed solely to some divine inspiration and insight with respect to their discovery. There is hardly any scientist who can deny this fact, because there is all the Nobel laureates or all the people who have had many important insights, they confess to this fact that there is nothing in this ordinary thought process that he could have come up to this idea or this theory or some observation that led to this discovery and this important formulation, right? But yet it is so obvious that, yeah, of course, after the theory is formulated and explained, everything seems obvious, but before the theory, nothing is obvious, right? Although everything is in front of our eyes, and we see and we perceive and we sense, but what is the difference, right? How does that vision of awareness and understanding develop is because of divine intuition. And how Krishna reveals to different people or different seekers, he reveals in different ways, right? Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritinu arjuna arto jigyasur artharti jnani cha bharatarshava. This is from the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is revealing that there are 4 kinds of people who begin to render devotional service unto him. Those who are distressed, those who are seeker of wealth, those who are inquisitive, and those who are looking after self-realization. Right? And of those, tesham jnani nityayukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi jnanino atyartham aham sacha mama priya. That of those, the one who is endeavoring for self-realization is very dear to me. And he's saying eka bhaktir vishishyate, that you have to be very focused and very you have to be willing to pursue that with a determination that is not ordinarily seen among people. And so he's recommending certain qualities and attributes of the devote for a seeker, for a student of spirituality, right? There are so many departments and universities and schools and colleges, and there are common attributes of any student, right? They expect one to be disciplined, they expect the students to follow and adhere to the rules and regulations of the institution, and expect them to demonstrate a level of understanding based on their tests and everything. So similarly in spiritual life also there are some definitely some milestones, because there's a path that is defined. There are milestones that have been clearly indicated, and these are for our own self-assessment, saying how have we made any progress on this path. Now, in the 3rd chapter, Krishna also recommends how one should conduct in accordance to the current situation, right? And he says that yad yad acharati shreshthas tatta devetaro jana sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. So he has given the instructions. The instructions are revealed to humanity at large in terms of these scriptures and the various customs and practices which are prevalent all over the world. And not only that, he has also himself demonstrated these when he engages in pastimes on this plane, and he also sets examples through his devotees, or the saintly kings and the devotees that have appeared, that have always been amongst us. So that is why there is scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. Scriptural evidence is a matter of, it's like, how do we come to any conclusion or decision. Theistic conduct is for us to understand and associate and practice and follow in the footsteps about how these instructions should be applied. And perseverance and practice is for us to have the frame of mind to not be impatient and to develop courage and to continue on this path, even though we may or may not experience visible results. Right? This is tried and tested. So even though we may or may not experience any visible results, we should still continue on this path. That's the reason why there is perseverance in practice. And so last Saturday we discussed briefly, this was just the motivation as to, or the background. Now, we here at the Mountain View Center, we base our discussions and teachings from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and of course many different pastimes of devotees which highlight this principle of theistic conduct. And as practitioners, it behooves us to ensure that our conduct in this world is inspiring others to take Krishna consciousness, right? Excuse me. We should, it is assumed that our behavior and our conduct is the carrier through which we spread the message of Krishna consciousness or spirituality in wider terms, right? So, as devotees, we really need to understand what our activity should be. And in one of the passages we read on Saturday, Srila Prabhupada, who is our founder Acharya, he was elaborating in the purports the need to inquire from a spiritual master about transcendental occupational duties. Now, what does transcendental occupational duty mean? Anybody has any comment or any suggestion on what one might understand from transcendental occupational duties? Anything? Duty. I'm asking about duties, not qualities.
Devotional service is one of them, especially for chanting. Is a devotional transcendental.
Is it an occupational duty? Would that be an occupational duty?
It is, right? When you are chanting in a proper numbers and worshipping and following the principles, that it is occupational life.
It is occupational life. By occupational life, Prabhupada is referring to livelihood. By occupation. In ordinary terms, your occupation would enable you to earn a livelihood and conduct, right? So, what is transcendental occupational duties? Is there such a thing?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this is Jalpa from Sacramento. Is service or transcendental occupation for the soul?
Come again, Mataji?
Is service our transcendental occupation? We are here to serve. We're always serving.
But I'm not able to hear you clearly.
Serving. She said serving.
Serving whom? And what is the...
Serving the Lord.
Okay. And
doing devotional service.
So you're saying serving the Lord is the occupational, transcendental occupational duty?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you define service?
Work for Krishna.
Doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna.
Yeah,
Rather
but
than doing things
what
for
are those
our
activities that Krishna recommends that He wants us to be engaged in?
9 devotional service?
Preparing prasadam can be an occupational devotional service.
Okay.
Because cooking food can be an occupation. And if it is done for the service of the Lord, it becomes devotional service.
Yeah. No, what we have to understand is every activity we do should help us to develop or help us become qualified as a devotee. Right? Now,
Right.
somebody wanted to say something? Okay. So, every activity we do is meant for us to make progress in developing certain qualities, right? So, that should be the question, saying, what are the qualities that Krishna expects of us, and how can we conduct ourselves to develop those qualities, and how should we spend our time in that kind of work where we can develop those qualities, right? So we break down from the top and we break it down into actionable items, right? Now, anybody would like to share what are the qualities of a student or a seeker that Krishna expects from his devotees? Or that has been highlighted by the great devotees themselves in their practice.
Humility should be humble as a grass.
Okay. Anything more?
Sincerity.
Okay.
Being humble,
Yeah. And?
being tolerant,
Yeah. If you can also, for the benefit of everyone, if you can mention the shloka or some passage that you are referring to, that would be helpful.
I can't recall, but I know that in somewhere around 12th or 13th chapter, Krishna says the qualities of a devotee.
Mm-hmm. Qualities of a student, right?
Right.
Yeah. Where does he talk about the qualities of saintly people or godly people?
Can I cheat and open the Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah, please. So, okay, a simple question. How does Krishna qualify Arjuna as a recipient of Bhagavad Gita?
He is not envy.
Yeah.
Arjuna is anasuyate.
Yeah, Anasuya.
No envy.
And he is also a friend of Bhaktosi me Sakha Cheti Rahasyam.
And his friend.
Right? Those are just in summary, but he elaborates further. Could you use the mic, please, so that everyone can hear?
Well, I don't mean to be offensive, but I just find it funny in a joking way, not to take this offensive or serious, but I feel maybe Krishna was scared that Arjuna would take his position, so he doesn't want anybody to be envious of him.
There is no threat for Krishna. Right? It is to our benefit to not be envious of anyone. Right? So, in the early parts of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, you are my friend, you are my devotee, you are surrendered to me, and you are not envious to me, and you also treat every other living entity with due respect. Right? He elaborates on those qualities in the 12th chapter, beginning with Adveshta Sarva Bhutana, Maitra Karuna Evacha, Nirmamo Nirahankara. And then he elaborates further a different set of similar qualities in the 13th chapter, beginning with Amanitvam, Adambitvam, Ahimsa, Kshantir, Arjavam, Acharyopasanam. And then again in 16th chapter, to begin with, he again says that these are the Daivi qualities. How does he begin that with? Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhir Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi. And so he talks about so many different qualities, right? And then he recommends work based on our characteristics and qualifications so as we develop these qualities. So no matter what your starting position is, Krishna is expecting all his devotees to be adept at these qualities, right? In terms of personal behavior, in terms of worldview, in terms of dealings with other living entities, in terms of interaction with nature, everything, right? Because everything is coming from Krishna. We all have the same source, right? Mamaivamsho jivaloke jiva bhuta sanatana mana shashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. Right? So that's our question now. So now we know that we have to develop these qualities because these are the expectation of a devotee. Bhakta. So Krishna is saying, my devotee, he has these qualities, and those who have these qualities are very dear to me. Right? In 3rd chapter. Prabhuji, can you pull up the translation for 12th chapter, 13, 12 or 13? Yes, the English translations are good. So 13, yeah. One who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, and who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Okay? He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. Okay? One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me. Right? Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Okay? So in the 18th to 19th verse, we see that who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service, right? Which means that we have to be engaged in devotional service, no doubt. At the same time, we have to be watchful or attentive about the qualities and the mindset and attitude with which we engage in devotional service, right? Because our attitude is what will determine our direction and further progress. So these are the guidelines that Krishna is recommending, as if you are engaged in devotional service with an angry mood, it's not going to help. If you are engaged in devotional service outwardly but you are offending people, hurting them, that's not going to help, although you may be engaged in devotional service, right? So these are the checks and balance Krishna recommends for us. If we go to 13th chapter, we see the verse starting 13.8 onwards, about 19 qualities that Krishna recommends. Right? Why is he recommending these qualities? What is the need? Right? What is the role of these qualities and characteristics on the path of progress?
Krishna wants us to develop these qualities so that we can go back to him.
Pardon?
Krishna wants us to develop all these qualities so that we can, go back to him.
Yeah, I'm looking for a little more immediate answer.
Prabhuji, I was thinking all these qualities actually help us to get the revelation he gave it to us.
Right. As we discussed at the beginning of the class, that these qualifications will attract the attention of Krishna. Right? If there are living entities, see, Krishna reserves the right to reveal knowledge. Right? Naham prakasha sarvatra yoga maya samavrita. Mudhoyam na vijanati mamajam avyayam. Right? Krishna states that I reserve the right to reveal myself, or the glories of myself, my energies, my interactions with everyone. I reserve the right, Krishna says. So how are we to get any insight on who we are, what our relation with Krishna is, how we should conduct ourselves? How are we to get any further on that path? Is by developing these qualities, right? If there are a list of candidates in front of the recruiter, who is the recruiter going to recruit? Of course, those that match their job profile and whatnot and all those things, right? So similarly, this is the recruitment list for a devotee. These are the qualifications for us, for ourselves. We don't need to judge anyone else. These are just for our own self. Saying this is the requirement list. Anybody who has followed this requirement list. But what is the symptom of somebody who is following or developing these qualities? What are the symptoms? How would we know that we made some progress? What does it mean to make progress on the path of devotional service? There are some very practical symptoms we just read. I'm just trying to encourage you to reflect upon them. Right?
Symptoms will be the love of Lord, that attachment.
Right. Now, in terms of something that we just read, if you can remember something, some practical symptom that helps us judge ourselves whether we have made any progress or not. Some practical things. Before we get to love of God, there are some things, even before that, some precursors, some preliminary symptoms that appear, right?
It is stuck in my mind, one of the things we were reading in the Acharu Upasanam. That is surrendering, that attitude.
Yeah. Prabhuji, can you scroll up to 12.13? Yeah. So, these are some of the things that we can judge our own self, right? How balanced are we in honor and dishonor? How balanced are we in terms of treating friends and enemies? How balanced are we in terms of our reliance on somebody else's approval, or living based on what others think about me, or something like that? Or in terms of environmental things, how balanced are we in terms of tolerating the changes in the environment? Right? These are some very practical things Krishna is recommending. He already said that in 2nd chapter, saying, Matra sparshast kauntaya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama paino nitya stam stiksha bharata. That these perceptions that you are experiencing in terms of heat and cold, honor, dishonor, happiness and distress are merely arising from sense objects interacting with the senses. Right? And one should, a dhira or a sober person is not bewildered by these perceptions. It is the first symptom that he is talking about. Yeah. So assuming that these are the qualities, now that we know these are the qualities that Krishna wants, what is he recommending as a means of developing these qualities? Right? That's what we should focus on in terms of our day-to-day activities. And those activities will also enable us to lead a balanced life and gradually evolve from a material conception to a spiritual conception, where we realize everything in connection to Krishna. Right? Just like he says, Aham sarvasva prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. That iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. That those who know how I am orchestrating everything in this world and how everything is emanating from me, they will be able to engage and constantly think about me and render devotional service to me. Right? Mattah parataram na anyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana eva. That everything is orchestrated by me. Just like pearls strung on a thread, I am the basis for everything. Right? This is quoting from Bhagavad Gita. So now we know that there are some qualities and attributes that we have to develop, and we have to find out what kind of activities we should be engaged in so that we develop these qualities. Right? And once we develop these qualities, knowledge will be revealed to us and we make further progress. Right? So this is what our strategy or approach should be. Right? So the next question in this journey is, what are the set of activities? So Krishna recommends in Bhagavad Gita in very summary form. And last Saturday we discussed the practical examples from devotees' life, from their character. And the example that we were discussing was the pastime of Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj, he was a very powerful, prominent king who appeared on this planet many years ago. And as recorded in the ancient histories, there is a discussion between him and some highly elevated, stalwart devotees of Krishna, known as the four Kumaras. These are personalities who are traveling all over the universe for the benefit of people like us, strugglers or devotees who are inquisitive about knowledge. And so this serves as a basis to find out how they conducted themselves to develop these qualities, and in turn make progress in terms of understanding about the qualities of Krishna, not only about Krishna but about his energies, various multifarious energies. One of the energies being this material world. This material world is the energy of Krishna. Right? Daivih yesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. So and we are surrounded in this material world. Right? So how do we understand this and how do we come out of this? Right? He also defines Bhumirapa analo vayu khammano buddhirevacha ahankarityam bhinna prakriti rashtada aparayamitastvanyam prakritim vidhime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. That this material world consists of these elements of earth, water, fire, air, ether, also time. And the living entity, who is also a form of energy of Krishna, is entangled in this web of material elements. Right? And Krishna is recommending a course of action for slowly unwinding this entangled and coming out of this entanglement. Entanglement in terms of subtle entanglements and gross entanglements. Right? What are the subtle entanglements Krishna refers to? We just discussed. Any subtle entanglements anybody has? Examples? Like any hankerings? When is the next iPhone out? Or when is the next... I don't know what people hanker for. There's so many things. So Krishna is saying self-controlled, always satisfied, not hankering. One should be steady and always satisfied. And self-controlled, in the sense saying sense-controlled, as somebody was saying, discipline. So, how should we... I'm encouraging you to think on these lines, and answers are all given in the scriptures, but unless we think and come up to those same questions ourselves, we will not be able to appreciate the answer. Right? So, now we know we have certain action items in terms of developing these qualities. So the next question is, what activities help us develop these qualities? And what are some of the things Krishna recommends? And these are the activities which constitute transcendental occupational duty, or Sadharma as it is called. Sat Dharma. Dharma is occupational duty or characteristics or the fundamental nature. Sat is transcendental. So, given our current situation, what is our transcendental occupational duty? Why is it called transcendental occupational duty? Because it helps us develop these qualities for enabling us to be candidates for recipients of divine knowledge. From that perspective, it is transcendental. Why is it occupational? What is Prabhupada's intention by saying it's transcendental occupational duty? This is a phrase he uses in his writings. It is not. So we have to pay attention to these phrases and figure out, work backwards and see how it applies to us, and what is the idea that he is trying to communicate in terms of instructions and guidelines, right? So there are many activities and endeavors being undertaken by people of spiritual interest, right? All with the idea of developing these qualities, right? People are endeavoring for making progress, developing these qualities, is it not? So, anybody would like to share what they are doing in their own life to make some progress and develop these qualities? Or anybody start thinking about it? Anybody on the audio bridge or the video? Anybody in the room?
So chanting regularly, hearing lectures from good Vaishnavas who are dedicated their life to.
How do you judge? How do you figure out, or how do you distinguish a good Vaishnava from bad Vaishnava?
I'm not qualified to figure out, but we can see that many Vaishnavas who are dedicated their life to take forward this Krishna consciousness mission, regularly serving for the Lord.
What would you say distinguishes a good Vaishnava from a bad Vaishnava? From a bad person? There is no bad Vaishnava.
Good Vaishnava means who are dedicated their life to ISKCON, continuously serving for the Lord. So that's how we can identify. We cannot go and see their heart, how they are.
No. We don't need to go that way. All I'm trying to ask or elicit an answer from the audience is, there is an inherent sense of something that we seek out in the other person to help us relate with them, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right? And that inherent expectation is very hazy right now. If I were to ask you, you have an inherent sense that who you would like to put your faith in and trust and follow the instructions, right? But we are not able to define it.
That's right.
Clearly. And that's precisely why we are in this discussion, to find out. Everybody is inquisitive, right? Everybody has an inherent sense of intuition of, there is something that I need to pursue, something missing in my life, right? Some inquisitiveness, something that's driving them. But we have a very hazy definition, and we have a lot of trials and errors and a lot of tribulations on that path. And that's the reason why there are scriptures to help us guide and define clearly, right? So, scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. These are the 3-4 things we need to focus upon, right? You had something to say, sir?
Just gonna mention what I'm focusing on now, which is the three gunas, the mode of ignorance, goodness, and passion, and surrendering these modes in myself, and intuitively seeing that how people are operating in one of these three modes or a combination helps me to feel that essence, that place where we all come from, that Krishna consciousness. And my challenge is to not get caught up in those three modes. And the more I see it, the more I see it as a test of Krishna. Whenever I try to surrender and say, "Oh, I feel like now I'm in that place where everything's smooth," surrender those three modes, then I would really get tested like today. And then I react and I blow up, and then I see that I have, he's still testing me to see if I'm really let go of these three modes and really understand it. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, but there is a specific formula or an approach to making some progress, right?
What's that?
How do you, so that's scriptural evidence. The first thing we discussed is, because it's not some whim or fancy that we have to chase. Things are laid down in the scripture, and there are examples which are demonstrating those principles, right? That's what Bhagavatam and other scriptures which mention the different historical anecdotes are living proof that these principles are meant to be applied in such and such manner, and when that is done, this is the result, right? So that's why theism is defined by those who follow these scriptures as opposed to atheists who deny the scriptures. That's the definition of theism, right? So when somebody says theistic conduct, are you a theist or an atheist? If somebody were to look at us and say, or whether to check saying, is he a theist or an atheist, what do you think our gradation would be? If it's for us to ask this question in our life, right? So, what is the necessity of all this? We are not going into the fundamental question about the need for having this discussion, because it's already assumed that if we need that discussion, it will be for some time else. But for now, we are assuming that we have a starting point that yes, we understand that we are not this body. Now, how do we come out of this entanglement? What is the three modes that he was referring? I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Ardeen.
Ardeen? Okay. As Ardeen was referring about the three modes and this material entanglements we are in. How do we... So it's for every one of us to actually think and adjust our life so that these particular questions are answered, right? Are we doing anything in our work, in our day-to-day life that is bringing us closer to developing those qualities? Right? And how close are those activities to what Krishna is recommending in terms of activities? And is there any leniency or any slack? And how do we get rid of that? And we tighten ourselves, right? People often like to believe that since it's too tough, they seek some leniency, right? But that's why immediately Krishna recommends perseverance in practice. There is not going to be leniency in terms of lowering the standards. Standards won't be lowered, right? Krishna is not going to say that you have 15 of the 19 qualities. It's okay for me, hired. That's not going to happen, right? He wants us to develop these qualities. It's for our own good, right? Because it's an important job to be engaged in devotional service, is it not? It's an important job. How do we expect that we can be engaged without any qualification? Right? Even for ordinary job, we have so many qualifications and systems in place, so many background checks. So for something of this nature, definitely there will be qualities. And then there's a training program. Just like there are training programs in terms of universities and colleges and professional vocational courses, similarly in devotional life also there will be vocational programs and learning and training and severe penance and austerity to develop these qualities, is it not? So the question we have to ask now is, how much of those instructions have we applied in our day-to-day life? And why is it important for us to apply it in our day-to-day life? Right? What happens when you don't apply? What is the result if you don't apply these principles?
Get pulled by Maya.
Can you use the mic?
So, Prabhu Hariguru, I think Maya is all the time ready with all sort of clutches. So if you don't apply these principles and don't do a regular check whether these principles are in place or not, it just takes a matter of second, or just a thought, or just a vision of somebody else thinking something else can also, bewilder you.
Yeah. So. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Chris, right? Chris is new to the program. He may or may not know what Maya is. Could you help define that?
So Maya is mysterious. Maya is the arrangement of the Lord Himself. It is the energy of the Lord. What we relate to here practically in day-to-day life is this material world with all its vicious qualities as well as good things.
For a first-timer, consider that you are explaining it to a first-timer.
So basically I have my tongue and I need good taste. So when I see something and people tell me that this is a very tasty thing, so I get attracted and I want to taste it. So this is Maya.
Okay.
And
I can probably put it in a little more basic terms.
Okay.
What Maya means is to be illusioned. About what is the question, right? Maya means that which is not. By that, the idea being conveyed is misidentification, right? We see something and another perception, we imagine another perception, right? Like for example, we see an object and automatically we imagine a particular taste or a smell or a texture for that object, right? And it may or may not be that, right? So that illusion, that's what constitutes illusion in general, right? Illusion means misinterpretation, right? In this context, what is the illusion? What is the illusion that we are all having right now? Right? So we defined what Maya is. Maya is being illusioned. And now the question, as he said, being illusioned that pursuing certain activity will lead to pleasure. Right? We are all seeking pleasure, but the illusion is misjudgment of the means of achieving that pleasure. Right? Right now we are thinking that I'll be happy when I get this car or this house, or when this thing is paid off, or when I don't have any loans, or when I have so many other friends who are like me, or when I join that club, or when I buy this product, or when I get this or that. Those are our calculations, right? But today, to date, nobody has been able to say that he's happy by these adjustments, right? They may be for a few moments, but then again it's taken away. Situations change, right? So that's the illusion. Illusion being we are misidentifying the sources to fulfill that happiness, to achieve that happiness, right? And that's illusion, right? We all want to be happy. Is there anyone who wants to be sad? No. Who is happy? Right? So these are some things that we need to discuss and think about and clarify in our own thought process, and constantly revisit and reevaluate and introspect and find out how close are we to this process and how many of the characteristics have we been able to develop. And be patient, don't be too self-incriminatory in this, right? So we would like to stop here and take any comments or questions or concerns before we end the class.
Vijay, one of the things I was thinking,
Yes.
when you said that divine transcendental occupation, Prabhupada always use the word go back to Godhead, to in the spiritual path, going back to that. That is every living being, every living entity's
Right.
occupation. Your second question is the purpose of life. Is also that is the purpose he defined.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the basis of why we are even inquiring about these topics, right? That we already discussed, saying it's already assumed that this is only for those who are interested in this path, right? So, if there are no further questions or comments, we would like to go to the next part of the program, which is the Gaura Arati. So, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jhanavi tatavane jagamanalobha Jagajana manalobha Gaurangiraratika shobha Jagajana manalobha Dakhine nitai chan Bhame gadadhara Nikate advaita srini Vasa chatradhara Bosi ache gora chan Ratna simhasane Arati kore na brahma